What's up, guys? So I want to talk about Big Five and Enneagram correlation, right? So what is Big Five? Big Five is a personality measuring tool that's used in a clinical setting. Of course, it's not as fancy as MBTI or Enneagram or Socionics test, where you get told you're an ESTP entrepreneur and you're such a genius and you're so good and you get all the girls and all of that, right? None of that good stuff, or you're an INTJ. And you're just so smart, you're a mastermind, where in reality, you are a basement dweller. So sadly, it doesn't really tell you all the fancy things. So there are a few facets in Big Five, main facets, and there's it's going to be extraversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, conscientiousness, and openness to experience. In the case of extraversion, it's going to be friendliness, gregariousness, assertiveness, activity level, excitement seeking, and cheerfulness. Now, what you guys don't know, or might not know, is that in Big Five, it's kind of linked to positive emotionality. So the higher extroversion, the better the experience is for you as a human being, right? With neuroticism, it's linked to, again, negative emotions. So there's a difference. If you score lower on the extroversion, you are genuinely not a happy person. That's not even me, that's science, or pseudoscience, or whatever. Actually, it's not whatever. Then we have agreeableness, and agreeableness is going to be trust, morality, altruism, cooperation, modesty, and sympathy. Now, don't mix things like good person, bad person in Big Five. There's no such thing as good or bad in psychology. Doesn't exist. There's no such thing. Just because you score egocentric doesn't mean you're a bad person, or just because you are agreeable means you're a good person. No, there are many people who, for example, if you've seen Arthur Fleck from The Joker, the new Joker movie, you think, what, he's egocentric? No, he's actually agreeable. Then we have neuroticism, and neuroticism is, again, the negative emotionality. Anxiety, anger, depression, self-consciousness, immoderation, vulnerability. This is your cope fest. If you want to see how much someone copes, you look at the neuroticism. There's no lying in that. Again, if you score high on neuroticism, probably good to have a therapist nearby. I would say you probably need a therapist, okay? Use this video as a motivation for you to have a therapist. Yeah, tell your therapist the rusted apology told you to get a therapist. It's good. And then we have conscientiousness, which is going to be that sweaty facet. This is the facet for all the sweaty people, right? This is the sweat hearts. It's going to be self-efficacy, orderliness, dutifulness, achievement striving, self-discipline, and cautiousness. Again, very, very, very sweaty. Openness to experience. This is a scale basically to see how much of a flying unicorn 69 gender you really are. The higher you are, the more of a degen you are, and the higher you are, the more disconnected from reality you are. So it's actually, it might seem like a good thing, but actually isn't. Imagination, flying unicorns, artistic interests, emotionality, adventurousness, intellect, and liberalism. So with Enneagram 1, you can say extroversion is probably going to be moderate. Again, not very excitement-seeking. They're probably not going to be very gregarious or extremely friendly. So I'd say moderate makes sense for Enneagram 1. Then, with agreeableness, I would say it's going to be low. Again, it's a type that can, generally speaking, be, if you want to fit the trait structure, you have to showcase dominance, which is, again, can be like superiority, acting condescending, acting superior, putting people down, trying to have control over the environment, instilling order on the environment, bossing people around. Those qualities are actually normal for one course, so it can be a very disagreeable type. So extroversion moderate, agreeableness is going to be low. Then conscientiousness is going to be high. Neuroticism is going to be moderate. That's what I would do. It's going to be probably moderate, because SP1 I would expect to have be more neurotic than, for example, SO1. So neuroticism is going to be moderate. Again, if you are a person who, yes, you're a gut type that's disconnected from your feelings, but if you're a person that's always trying to uphold certain standards of perfection and you try to uphold them and you live up to them, you will cope. 100% you will cope. And openness to experience, probably going to be low. Generally speaking, okay? This is a disclaimer. This isn't the average profile of this type. Just because you are a bit, okay, maybe your openness is moderate, that doesn't mean you're not a one core. I'm just saying that the average profile of a one core is going to be that way. Low, again, a gut type, more concrete, more sensorical, focus on unable to really function in unstructured environments. They're going to be much more conservative in their approach to things, much more disciplined, much more down to earth. Enneagram 2, extroversion is going to be high. Again, cheerful, gregarious, very excitement-seeking, pleasure-seeking. So they're very animated also. Again, very intense and extroverted people. optimistic type. So this makes perfect sense that they would score high, very high on extraversion. Agreeableness is not going to be high on average. It's going to be low to moderate. Conscientiousness is going to be low to moderate, again, because this is not some uber try-hard type. It's a more of a brat. It's like a teenager. That's how they describe the teenager. A teenager who wants to live for pleasure and wants to avoid the responsibility and be playful. This will come with very, again, slacking in self-discipline and other facets, making them probably low to moderate at best conscientiousness. Neuroticism, this is going to be probably moderate up to high. It depends. That's the scale. Not to say they can, no two core can be lower, but on average, probably moderate to high. As they are a histrionic type, okay? They are a very histrionic type, charged by emotions, and literally being considered one of the most emotional types with Enneagram 4. Then we have openness to experience, probably moderate, I'd say. Liberal, probably. Very unconventional, right? Breaking rules, breaking kind of conventions and all of that. And I believe they can be artistic. So I believe, yes, moderate makes sense for Enneagram 2. With Enneagram 3, we're going to say extraversion is going to be high. Again, pragmatic, quite assertive type. It's going to be much more people-oriented. The assertiveness really will help this scale. Agreeableness is going to be low to moderate. Again, it depends on the subtype, but low to moderate, I think it makes sense because at its worst, they can be very, again, detached people who don't care about emotions of others or their own and will favor success over everything else or anyone else's feelings. So that's why they're, again, lower to moderate level. Conscientiousness, high. It's pretty simple, right? Because, yes, it is a type that wants to focus on success, achievement, striving, and they want to kind of Jesus Christ. When I'm done with this video, you can say bye-bye. There's a fly. I thought to myself, I'm going to show mercy to this fly. I'm going to leave it be. But I can't leave it be right now. So, yeah. Makes sense, conscientiousness, that is self-discipline type, it was going to be high, right? With neuroticism, I'm going to say lower to moderate, up to moderate, probably makes sense for a type. They're the hard type, yes, but they're disconnected from the emotions and they're very pragmatic, which I believe can make some of those facets kind of different. Openness, moderate. Nothing more to say here. It's not some special type. Moderate makes sense. With Enneagram 4, this is the juicy type. Extraversion is going to be low to moderate. All right, sadly. Agreeableness, this is where there's a lot of variety. Because I would probably say low on the lowest scale for 4, moderate to high for social 4, and also self-preservation 4. I think they both will score kind of similar in the agreeable facet. Conscientiousness probably going to be moderate, again, with maybe SP... Flying. With maybe SP4 being like more conscientious. Okay? Now, neuroticism, this is the cope fest party. This is where you need therapy. This is where even though you're 12 and you think you're fine and your parents love you, you need therapy anyway, just in case. So in 10 years, you're not going to fall in an existential depression. So definitely hit up the therapist. Very high neuroticism. Again, melancholia to the maximum degree they're coped. Again, very anti-conventional, very artistic, very intellectually based, very liberal, high openness to experience. Now, 5 core. Extraversion low, not very happy people. Agreeableness is probably going to be on the lower spectrum, low. Conscientiousness, I would say low to moderate, right? Because there's a problem with procrastination and some other issues. I think it can cause them issues. Neuroticism, probably I would say moderate even up to high, depending on the subtype. Now, I've talked to some people about this and, cosplayers. I will never believe a 5-core cosplayer telling me I'm not neurotic. 5s as a type that's, again, very negativistic type, right? Feeling intimidated by the world, feeling like they cannot deal with the world around them, so they kind of just shy away from it. Anxious, oftentimes hidden, self-conscious, vulnerable. No. I'm going with moderate up to high with 5. Enneagram 5. Sorry, copers. Sorry, cosplayers. I have to do this because no one else will. With openness to experience, 100% is going to be 5. With openness to experience, I mean high, okay? So obviously it's going to be highly abstract, thinking outside of the box type. And like six score, that's where it's going to be interesting. With a 6 score, you have extroversion, probably moderate, maybe moderate even too low, moderate to low, depending, you know, not every 6 score is going to be gregarious, friendly, excitement seeking. So I think that, yes, there's a case for moderate up to low extroversion. Agreeableness, this is where the variety comes into play. Low for SX6, moderate high for SP6, and low up to moderate for SO6. And that's my opinion. With conscientiousness, moderate high. Again, this is pretty simple. Moderate high for conscientiousness of a 6 score. Again, they are much more disciplined, they're much more rigid, they're much more pedantic. Neuroticism from moderate, in my opinion, up to high. Again, they're coped. They're very coped, but that does just because they're very anxious and struggle with those emotions doesn't mean that they automatically will be highly neurotic. But on a big 5, they'll either score moderate or high. If you are a 6 score, you score low, you're probably cosplaying. Drop the lab. Again, this is not a Halloween dress-up party, guys. Come on, we don't do this on this channel. So with openness, it's going to be low to moderate. Right? And you're going to be like, well, yeah, but SP6 can be like an EII and III. Wouldn't that make it... Yes, we can argue, obviously, in like an III SP6 or EII SP6, probably going to have a higher openness to experience. But I'm saying as a whole, okay? As a whole, Enneagram 6 probably scores low to moderate. They are much more conservative. They're not against crossing boundaries or breaking the kind of conventions and all of that, right? No. With Enneagram 7, it's going to be extraversion, it's going to be high. Again, chatty, extravagant, kind of playful and mischievous and very high verbal ability and quite assertive type. Makes sense, right? With agreeableness, low to moderate agreeableness, probably, depending on the subtypes. That's where I'll place it. Conscientiousness, low to moderate. Again, moderate probably at best. Being a 7 core and being highly conscientious sounds like a LARP. The trait structure even indicates this, right? They're much more flaky, they're much more non-committal, they often lack self-discipline. They're all over the place, they're chaotic type. Neuroticism, probably ranging from low to moderate, on average. Yes, you can be a highly neurotic SX7, because probably most of them are that way, but in general, I'm talking about this. Now, low to moderate neuroticism makes sense. As a type, 7 cannot be non-inquisitive. I actually don't believe you can be a 7 core and be non-inquisitive. It's not going to happen. It's literally like a core trait of this type. So fantasy, imagination, intellect, right? Liberal, and like, again, liberalism, all of those traits they will score very high on. It's going to be extroversion is going to be high. Again, often excitement seeking and high gregariousness and assertiveness and all of those facets will be quite high. So it makes sense. Agreeableness is going to be low across all facets. You know, if you are an 8 core, you score anything other than low, that's already a sus. This is the suspect territory, and you might get called out. Conscientiousness, this is going to be from low to moderate. Okay, if you score high on conscientiousness, you're cosplaying. You're like a 1 core who dressed up as an 8 core. Drop the cosplay, drop the LARP, you're either a 3 or a 1. Conscientiousness doesn't fit 8 core, right? Well, yes, self-efficacy, I'm sure they're going to score higher, maybe even on achievement striving sometimes. But cautiousness, right, dutifulness, and all of those other facets that are focused on orderliness and organization of the environment, they're probably not going to score very high, they're going to be low. So low to moderate at best. Makes sense for Enneagram 8. Neuroticism, this is going to be a shocker for many of you because you believe, 8s are loud, 8s are like expressive of their anger, they must be neurotic and they're a reactive type, angry type. No, not at all. Actually, it's one of the least emotional types in whole Enneagram. Neuroticism, generally speaking, is going to be low. Yes, you can have a higher score of neuroticism as an 8. It happens. Some 8s have a very high scores on moderation and extremely high scores on anger, and they can type as limbic. Openness to experience is also going to be low. 8 core is described as anti-intellectual. Now, some of you really don't understand what this means. Oh, Russ, but you're making videos. You're an intellectual. Yeah, I'm an intellectual. That's what I do. Dude, I am an intellectual. I'm like Jordan Peterson. Look at me. I'm Jordan Peterson because I because I talk about typology. You don't understand what that means. They are impatient and completely often not willing to engage in an intellectual work where they need to concentrate and read difficult material and geek over it. It's not going to happen. So they're action-oriented. That's why they are anti-intellectual. They're action-oriented. And again, more concrete. Focus on tangible, what is here, what is now, and focus on what's real. So very little focus on the abstract. With an Enneagram 9, extroversion is going to be low. Agreeableness is going to be moderate up to high, depending on the subtypes. Conscientiousness is going to be low. Neuroticism is probably going to be low. I'll probably say low because they're just kind of like, it's funny about 9s are very similar to 8s. They're one of the most numbed out and disconnected internally type, and as a gut type. So again, I would probably score low for neuroticism and low for openness. Again, just like the 8. Very grounded, very concrete, very sensorical. I mean, their whole trait structure, they're probably lower on openness than 8s. Yeah, for sure, right? Because removing of any kind of abstract connection to things that are less tangible, they remove all of that. So disconnection from imagination, all of those are core traits. Now, can you be an Enneagram 9 and not be low in openness? Probably, yeah. I mean, but we're going by the trait structure, what the type represents, and that is actually the score for Enneagram 9. So tell me what you think in the comment section, and remember, this was not really done individually, okay? It's based on what the type represents on average, okay? Now tell me what you think. Maybe you agree or disagree on some things. Let's have a little discussion. Peace out.